Hi everyone, thank you so much for joining me today. My name is Cynthia and this is a journal with me video. It is going to be a chatty one, so get ready for that. This spread is quite a big spread and I had a ton of ephemera, as you can see, that I was thinking I could use. Essentially I picked out things that were in the same colors and a little bit of water and beach related spread. My first inspiration for this spread was a postcard that I will be using in there, and it's a postcard from 1,000 Islands, which is in Ontario in Canada, and it's actually really close to a place I used to live, which is called Kingston, and I wanted to journal a little bit about the beach and some memories that I have from around that area, and just seeing the water with my nephew, and just missing the beach as well, because this year I didn't get to visit my family back east, and we typically go to the beach together. And where I live right now, I think there are some beaches, but they're pretty far, and it's not really the same types of beaches of what I would be used to. So I wanted to just talk a little bit about this in my journaling. So what I'm doing here is simply covering a blank page that I would be using within the spread. I've picked out some bits and pieces that I had laying around, so part of a music sheet that I've tea stained, and another just like doodle paper that's tea dyed, and just a vintage, I think, sewing pattern, and I really like that sewing pattern just because it had that teal in there, and that really went with the other bits and pieces that I had picked out. So I'm gluing that down simply with my glue stick for now, and I'm just making sure that everything is secured down onto the page nicely. I often just flip the page and press on the side that doesn't have many bits. I just find it easy to make sure that it's adhered well that way. And I'm trying to figure out how I'm going to be utilizing that postcard, and I want to make a pocket for it, so I'm trying to figure out what I'll be using to create that pocket. I didn't mind the doodle paper, but it just wasn't very interesting, I guess, so I wanted to see if I could use an embossed paper. And as always, I will have linked down below the little bits and pieces from where I use or where I obtain some of my ephemera, such as these beautiful embossed papers. I'll have that all linked down below. But I settled for a white one, and the embossing on there almost like reminded me of waves a little bit, just with the curves in the embossment. So I settled on that, and I'm just trying to figure out like how big I want that pocket to be, because I think the paper is just a little bit too big, and it doesn't have to cover the whole page. I still want to be able to see the postcard quite a bit. But moving into the other image on this page, I'm trying to figure out how all the pieces are going to work together. So often before I glue down everything, I do like to get an idea of how it's going to look, and how I'm going to be using some of the different elements that I've pulled, just so that, you know, I don't start gluing everything and then regret doing something that could have looked better a different way. If I become too indecisive, that's when I start gluing without trying to think too much about it. But in this case, I had so many things to work with that I had to figure out a couple pages before being able to to start gluing. And I just have a mixture of like botanical bits and vintage bits. Here I've just inked up this botanical cutout. I just wanted it to be a little bit darker. And I've also cut a little piece of lace that I want to include just as another texture element. But I do want it to be just a little bit darker, so I did ink that bit of lace as well. And then now that I have a little bit of a better idea of what things are starting to look like, I'm gonna start gluing some items. This way then I can really engage into my crafting, I guess. Now that I feel like I've got a solid plan. But I love that image of the lady and the man at the beach. It just, I miss the beach so much. And for me, growing up, we always went to the beach. And I'm originally from Quebec, and we have a lot of water in Quebec. And the region that I'm from has this big lake where we used to always go to every summer with my grandparents and my mom and of course my brother. And we have so many memories there, and burying ourselves in the sand, and it's just, I really love thinking back about those times. And typically every year I go back, so I still wanted to feel like I had somehow gone to the beach a little bit just by journaling about it. To create my pocket, I put some glue on two sides of the embossed paper, and I wanted to make sure that I didn't do the three sides because I just wanted to be able to easily put things together. And because the embossed paper is quite a bit thicker, it's not flimsy, right? And it just offers a secure pocket only with the two sides. It didn't require the three sides, and it allowed me to put things a little bit wider in there. Now that I've done that, I have moved on to the next pages. And I picked this vintage photo because it has a bunch of people just sitting at a table, and they're just gathered, and I wanted to talk about like why I hadn't been to the beach, I guess, and just missing that aspect of gatherings and being surrounded by family. So I added a tiny piece of tissue paper to create an extra element of layering and texture, and then I stuck down the image with some double-sided tape. And now I'm looking at adding more into the pocket with the postcard. And I have this beautiful tag that Angela gave me, and I add a little bit of lace to it. And I'm also going to be collaging onto that tag. I have this image. I'm not sure where the picture is taken, but my pen pal sent that to me, Maria, and I really love the colors in there, and it reminded me of older towns and in Spain when I would go to the beach there, and just the houses over there and in the older towns. So I wanted to include that bit in there. I thought it kind of suited the rest of the images that I had picked out. So I'm just adding a little bit of craft paper to create just a tiny collage on there, and then I'll glue down the picture. But that picture is a little bit thicker, so I did use wet glue to glue that one down. Again, I just alternate between my glue stick and clear glue and whatever glue I have laying around, and I just go with what I have, and depending on how thick the paper is, I might use a different type of glue that seems to adhere better to that kind of paper. Because I am using a wet glue, I am kind of molding the tag back in shape and just making sure that those corners are well glued down. Now I added I pierced a hole in the embossed paper to add a little brad clip, and my idea was to just add a little charm in there that I took out from a piece of jewelry that I had, and it's just a little star, well, like a starfish, I guess. So I'm attaching that with a piece of string on which I'm just going to be making knots. So as you would make one of those like knotted bracelets that many of us made when we were younger, this is simply what I'm doing here, just to make it a little bit more interesting and making it very secure on there. So I've sped that up a little bit because everybody knows how to make knots. Now I want to move into some other pages, and although I really love that printable with the flowers, I just wanted to add something else to it. I mean, I like the idea of leaving it relatively blank so that you can see those flowers still, but I just wanted to add a little something extra. So I'm playing around with the pieces that I have left and trying to figure out what can work where. And I realized that I could add some interest to the page by adding a piece of tissue paper, just because I really love using tissue paper. It allows the imagery to still show through while kind of blending everything together, and the color tone of this particular tissue paper is one of my favorite. I believe that this is tissue paper from Anthropology, so it's super random, but I'm pretty sure that's where that is from, and that's just something that I've always done. I keep the tissue paper whenever I purchase something somewhere. If it's pretty, I keep it and I use it in gifting, like when I prepare a gift for someone. So I've just been crafting with this tissue paper I've been hoarding for years. And now I'm just adding some little elements, a little bit of blue, because I felt like there wasn't enough blue over on this side. So I'm using a piece of washi tape to create that, and that was just like a scrap of washi I had stuck on my desk, and I wanted to add that little tag that said fragile, handle with care, just because I felt a little bit fragile as I was writing about all these things that I was very much missing at the moment. And now I'm ready to move into these other pages to create like even more of a bigger spread, I guess. I wanted to add an element that would be a little bit more about me and about what my memories were. But I think I wanted to, I start journaling a little bit. Sometimes when I feel like I get stuck as I'm creating, I'll start journaling a little bit, and then I see how that blends into what I've already created and where I can add and where I need to leave more space. So here I'm completing the first pages, as I knew that I didn't really want to add any more ephemera, and I felt like perhaps that would bring more ideas on how to decorate and how to make the other elements of the pages that I had left work. So I'm just journaling here, and then Indeed It Did kind of help me figure out what I had left to journal about and how I wanted to create those pages. So I have this big journaling card that Chantal sent me, and I'll just staple that in the corner of this page. I'm trying to make this other little piece of paperwork, but it's just not quite the right shape for what I'm going for. And I was trying to find a picture of my nephew and I at the beach, but all I could find was this one. And we're just at the dock, and he was looking at all the boats, and he was just so fascinated by the boats. It was very sweet. This is a pretty old photo. It's 2 years ago now, so he's quite a bit bigger, but it's just some very fond memories that I have. And I want to frame that picture, and I just go and grab bits and pieces from an envelope that I got in the mail from a pen pal. I really like to reuse everything, so this was some of the decoration she had on there, and I just essentially like ripped it off of the envelope. I reused the envelope, but I still wanted to use this part of it too, so I'm just using some wet glue, and I will make sure that it's secure onto the page. And again, I'm flipping it to make sure that I can press from the other side as well, and just adding some more of that washi tape scraps that I have to add a little bit more blue to that page. And I want to frame the picture a little bit more. I just don't like having all these sharp edges. So I'm just using little paper scraps that I have laying around and gluing those down with my glue stick. Did you guys also have to deprive yourself from fun activities that you typically do in the summertime? I know some of you are from New Zealand or Australia, and of course now you're going into your summer season, so that'll be really nice. Probably a good break from the colder weather. Here in Alberta, the weather is getting a little bit colder. I filmed this video in August, but it is now September, and some of the leaves are already turning, and it's a bittersweet time for sure. I love the fall, and I love just the smell of the air and that crisp morning breeze. All of those things I really like, and to be honest, I don't think I could ever live in a city where it's always warm. I like the idea of taking vacation in warmer places, but there's just really something about coming inside a house that is warm and inviting. But that's definitely to come here. It's almost time. There has been mornings that we've had to put the heat on. So here I'm playing around a little bit more with some tissue paper, and again trying to see if I can frame that picture just a little bit more. And I end up settling for this left corner, and I just need to trim that piece before I can glue it down. Here I'm just writing the time that this picture was taken and where it was taken. So like I said, it was a couple years ago, and I wanted to remember what year that was from. And then I'm just continuing my journaling. I'm not going to add much more to these pages, just because I think they're busy enough with the different elements that I've already added, and now that I've journaled onto them, that's just plenty good for me. And that's it, you guys. This a pretty big spread for me. I typically don't use as many pages, but I'm super happy with how it turned out and the different layers and textures that I was able to include in here. I really hope that you enjoyed this video, and that it felt a little bit like we were spending some time together and getting to know each other. But I will talk to you guys in my next video. Thank you so much for joining me today, and if you like this video, leave me a thumbs up or comment down below. And if you haven't already, please subscribe to my channel. I'd love to have you be part of it. Thanks so much, and I'll talk to you guys soon.